bringing vibes to you. As they speak, let the people know culture and healing in a reggae flow. As they speak.
And greetings. It is always a joy and a privilege. We say Bayete, Nagas. We're really encouraging royal greetings, royal blessings as we start another broadcast of ASTSpeaks, building a new legacy. We have a honorable, illustrious guest tonight, and we're so elated. Like you could tell when I get very excited. So just for the persons that are not familiar with ASTSpeaks, this is an opportunity for us to broadcast on issues that are impacting ancestral sacred traditions, African people around the globe, humanity. So we talk about culture, healing, arts, technology, and spirituality that supports life, inspiration, freedom, and edification. So with that portion, I'm going to take a moment and we're going to listen to this music just a little bit more so I can bring on our illustrious guests.
Speaks with Queen Mother Dr. ChenziRa Davis Kaina. Live every first and third Thursday at 8 p.m. EST on the Two Buttons Network. Listen all the home radio, audible visa, Amazon Music, and where purpose meets the people.
And we're grateful. We're waiting for our guests to return to the platform, and in the interim, it'll give us an opportunity to really check in terms of truth to power. It is always a joy and a privilege. I'm really grateful to be able to welcome His Royal Majesty, King Bungane III of Embo Kingdom. So when persons hear all of this, we're encouraging a lot of conversation. If you have questions and inquiries, this is being live streamed on YouTube at ASTSpeaks as well as on Facebook to ChenziRa Kahina, and we're posting this on other platforms so persons can actually hear more accurately what is really the perspective of what's taking place in South Africa. I need us to go into intellectual pause mode. So I need you to turn on your sound, please, Your Majesty. Very good. Greetings. Bayete, Bayete, Bayete. Okay, you went mute. Turn it back on, please. All right, we're going to take a moment so he can get his sound on. And hopefully, yeah, there we go, unmute. Okay, I need you to unmute, Your Majesty. All right. Well, while we're preparing for him to be able to get his sound in order, because we can see you, we are not fortunate enough to hear you quite yet, but we're going to ask that you share with us. In the interim, I will just highlight a couple of key points. King Bungane III is the monarch of the pan-continental Embo nation.
Yeah, I can't hear a word. It's like the connection is not.
And
It's not
Robben
good.
Island prisoner, he learned of his royal lineage at age 50 and was coronated in November 2015. He is a prominent voice of African development, unity, and the repatriation of the diaspora. His remarkable journey from fighter to royalty is a unique blend of political activism and traditional leadership. And there's much more that we can speak to. I'm looking forward to being able to have him join with us to share perspectives again on what is really happening in South Africa and why is there this xenophobia, hostility amongst Africans with Africans in South Africa, right? And how does that relate to what's taking place in the diaspora? How does that relate to global affairs in the light of so much Pan-African unity being fostered in different parts of the world? You know, how do we address diaspora repatriation? How do we address reparations, really? how do we look at economic empowerment and Pan-African voices therein. So with that, we're hoping that you can unmute. Are you able to unmute, Your Majesty? Okay, it appears he's almost frozen. We're going to try this one more time. Okay, that's what I thought. We're going to work on this. So I will continue to share some of the information while we're waiting for His Royal Majesty to return, just so the persons can have an idea of some of the advocacy, some of the visionary leadership that focuses very concretely on modern advancement of African communities and reconnecting with the African diaspora. So the initiatives that I've shared, that King Bungane III of the Embo Nation in South Africa, diaspora repatriation, really His Royal Majesty has been engaged in active campaigns to reconnect and support African descendants. And I'm going to shift that to ascendants that are living globally. So we're speaking of Africans born in the continent, Africans born of the continent, Africans living outside of the continent, yes? And really engaging in repatriation that's very active and very productive and mutually beneficial wherever we go. Another key initiative that His Royal Majesty King Bungane III has been involved in is economic empowerment, where His Majesty stresses the importance of self-reliance. In case those that are listening may not understand that, but self-determination, decolonization, reparations, liberation, principled unity, yes? For African communities, advocating that indigenous people should own resources, then in contrast to relying on outsiders or outside corporations, outside governments, so we can say external corporations or external governments, controlling the resources. Another key issue is that His Royal Majesty King Bungane III focuses on Pan-African voices being able to speak on the national as well as the international outlets regarding human rights and the rights of African citizens worldwide. So I encourage persons, if you're not familiar with the Embo Kingdom, EMBO, do some research, be engaged. And again, we're using this as an opportunity. We're still having some problems with him coming in. We're going to see how we can get this operational. The reason that we were having this interview at this particular time with this particular conversation has a lot to do. Greetings, Your Majesty. Are you able to hear us? Okay. I take it that, okay, I see your sound is on, but we're not hearing you. Can you speak for us to see if you are able to hear us? Greetings. We are having some really interesting issues. Okay, we're having some issues because we're not hearing you to turn on your sound. Okay, that's all right. We're going to make this work. All right, I know what we can do. Because if I cannot hear you, I should be able to get you on another platform and see if you can speak here. And I'll just keep your visuals up. Yeah, we're trying a couple of things here. Greetings, Brother Sai. There's like a whole vision to try to see if we can not have this broadcast, but I think it's important for us to. Yeah, it looks like he froze. Yeah. So I'm going to take a moment and see if we can find another way to do this. I don't. There we go. Can you try and speak now? It seems like I can't hear you or you can't hear me. Hmm. We're going to do one more thing here on my end. One of the things that we have spent some quality time doing is making sure that persons are aware of who some of our guests are. And I think it's important to know that persons that are familiar with early life and the anti-apartheid struggle, these are the types of things that might happen when they're even attempting to share truth as power in our platforms. And we really would like to ask your patience while we navigate through some of the different aspects and elements of what we've been able to gather, what we've been able to share, what we've been able to conduct in terms of the work. Part of this conversation with His Royal Majesty King Bungane III, regardless of the delay intended or intentionally proposed, has a significant amount to do with work and efforts that took place during the IDO network journey to reconnection in Africa in May. They do this annually, and I think it's important to know that IDO, and you can go to IDO International, Google that, and find out more information about this charitable organization that focuses on bringing royal kingdoms and communities together so that we can build stronger economic drivers in Africa, in the diaspora, that strengthen humanity. There's a lot that comes to that. But it was during that time that His Royal Majesty King Bungane III was the keynote. And we were very fortunate to have him share the historiography of the Embo kingdom and nation, and then connect that to the full Pan-African movement in a way that allowed for us to not only learn the content of what took place and different perspectives of what took place in the 50s and 60s and early 70s, but we're going to take a quick moment right here. Bayete, that's one. Okay, if you can't hear me, that means that you need to turn on your sound when you first come in. So okay.
Yeah, you keep on cutting. I can't hear a word in what you're saying. Yes, it's like the internet connection has a problem. Yes.
Okay, so this is what I'm gonna do. So let me tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put you here on sound, and if you can just put on your, if you just put on your camera, then they can hear you on this on from the phone. Is that okay? Can you do that?
Yeah. If can you see me now?
I don't see you now.
Yes, I just turned on my video.
Okay.
Is it okay?
See, I don't need you to turn on the video on the phone. Give me a moment.
Okay. Okay.
You can just go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and do the interview, and we'll just do it with your sound. And I can put up, I think I have a picture of you. We'll make it work like that. Give me a moment so I can, because no, I'm on air. So give me a second. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay, right.
No, stay on the phone. Stay on the phone.
Okay.
You'll just do it from here, and I'm grateful.
Okay.
I love when people can hear, can really engage with me like this. So thank you, Your Majesty.
Right.
Give me a moment. So as you can tell, I love this particular part. I really love this particular part. We're going to keep it going.
Right.
Interesting.
by tomato sales, right?
And we will work on this one because it is definitely. Okay. No, I think we should just continue because what's happening.
Okay.
What is happening is that we're on a live stream, and they can hear you. They may not be able to see you right now, but they can hear you. So let me just welcome you as I started before. I really am grateful. Your Royal Majesty King Bungane III, we have already shared a bit of you being the monarch of the pan-continental Embo Nation. I think it's very powerful for persons to know your history as a former anti-apartheid activist and Robben Island prisoner, and that you learned of your royal lineage at the age of 50 and was coronated in November 2015. And I think it's important that persons know your journey, from freedom fighter into this royal ancestral space. This is a very unique blend of not only activism, through the body politic and economics, but your traditional leadership. And we're very grateful to have you join us. And regardless of whether or not we can see you, I'll keep putting up the picture that I find very appropriate when you were sharing keynote remarks during the journey to reconnection with Ido being in Uganda in May. I think it's very powerful. So Your Majesty, please share with us your views, your perspectives, a bit about you, and then we can go right into the conversation, the discussion on the perspectives in South Africa.
No, thank you very much for allowing me to speak and giving me this opportunity. We say Bayete in our language. That's our royal greetings, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. I grew up born in the part of the south of Africa, in South Africa. I originally come from KZN. There's a nation that is called Embo Nation or Abambo. Some of us are calling it Imihuhu. What happened in this history? We originally come from Central Africa. We come from South Sudan. My forefathers originally come from South Sudan, and then we descended up to where we are today in South Africa. And then when I was here, I grew up in KZN. So my father, they wanted to kill my father because he was ascending to the throne. So my father had to move around in different provinces, in the Eastern Cape, and then in Johannesburg in Gauteng. So we grew up in Gauteng, and then we had to change our surnames, our identity, so that people not know who we are. As I was growing up, my story that I wanted to become a medical doctor when I was growing up. So what we used to do, because in our location where we grew up, there was no electricity, and we used to stay in one yard with about 10 families. So there was a lot of noise. Some of the families used to make noise like playing music with using batteries, having shebeens. Shebeens are places where they sell liquor, so there would be noise. So we would then agree with our peers to say, the best thing for us to be able to study, to become whatever we want to become, we must go and negotiate with a school. They borrow us a class in the evening to do cross-nighting so that we study quietly. So, and then we would carry candles for us to have the light for us to study. So we'll study the whole night, and then in the morning we'll prepare to go to school in preparation for us to be attending school during the day. So we used to do that every night. So little did I realize that the same group that I was growing up with, is the same group that we would be implicated in the 1976 June uprising in South Africa in Soweto. So these were the people that I grew up with. So every night at 12 o'clock, midnight, we just put the books aside and discuss about the conditions in South Africa. If it is right that our people must be badly treated the way are being treated by the white racist regime, and what used to happen, the racist regime would never allow visitors to visit in your area without permissions, meaning you must go and attain a paper. If you're coming from the rural areas, you want to come to Johannesburg, you must go to your local chief, and the local chief must write a letter, and then with certain days, with a stamp from the native office, native administration office, to allow you. If they reject it, you can't come to Johannesburg. And then 2, if you want to come and work in Johannesburg also, that stamp, you need it from the local chief, and from the local chief, you must go to the native administration for them to stamp. Now, if you are from the what we call the rural areas, meaning your stamp, it is not going to be 101A, it is going to be 101C, meaning you are not allowed in Johannesburg. You are only allowed for those certain days that you're supposed, or months you're supposed to be working. When that expires, you must go back again. Then those who are born in Johannesburg, they have a stamp in their passbooks or in their identity, in what we call ID now, but it was the reference book in the past. So you must have a stamp that says 101A, not B, 101A, meaning you are allowed to be in Johannesburg. Now, and then they give you a permit again. That permit, it's got names of those who are 101A. Then if there is somebody who does not appear in the permit, that person will be then arrested to be sent to go and dig potatoes in a place in what we call Eastern Transvaal, what we call today Mpumalanga, to go and dig potatoes with their hands without any tools for 90 days. And then as they're digging for a day, they pay them 1 cent per day. And then immediately when they finish their 90 days, they are rearrested again to work in the farm. So everybody who did not belong to Johannesburg, they will then send them to go and assist farmers to produce their products. So we stood up and said, we cannot allow this, because our mothers and our fathers who came to visit in Johannesburg, they will be chased by these young racist policemen around the streets, early hours of the morning at about 3, 4. They will come and knock and kick the doors, in Dutch Afrikaans language, "Makoop," meaning open the door. They just kick and then they want the permit. So we at 12 o'clock, at 12 noon, we discussed this thing to say what would be the best solution to fight against this. So we all agreed to say, you know what? We're going to fight against this system. Now, whilst we were discussing that, then we had a problem. Now, the very same racist regime in 1976, then when we were about to write exams, they then introduced a system that every person who's going to be writing exam must be writing exam in Dutch language, meaning in Afrikaans. Then we then raised the issue to say, we did not prepare for that. You guys did not prepare us for that. We can't just write. We are going to fail, all of us. The whole of the country is going to fail. That's how the uprising started, because they just changed everything in their languages without notification, without anything. So when we were demonstrating peacefully, they started shooting us. The first victim, it was Hastings Ndlovu, and then it was Hector Peterson after that. So the whole of South Africa then, the youth decided to say, let's pledge solidarity with those students that were killed in 1976 in June. So it spread the whole of South Africa. So then I was then hunted, because I was with that group that was preparing for that. So they arrested me 2 years later, meaning the past 2 years they were looking for me. Then they found me. Then I was sentenced to 10 years in Robben Island. That's how I ended up. And then after that, I left. I left prison. 10 years, meaning 4 years suspended, 6 years imprisonment. So I left prison. Then I went to join the armed struggle when I left. But in prison, what was important was I was very young, tender age. So I was loved by the father of the former president, Thabo Mbeki. His father is Governor Mbeki, loved me so much. And then I did not even know that Mandela was mentored by my grandfather. So he told me that, he said to me, this is my chance for you to be mentored by me, because your grandfather made me what I am. Then I met other leaders. So most of my time in prison, I was with these older people who were old enough to be my fathers. Some of them were old enough to be my grandfathers. So these are the people who mentored me. So when I left prison, I went and joined the armed struggle in exile. I joined the ANC. So I became involved in the struggle. So, and then I fought in Angola against the UNITA rebels, against the very same racist regime that was from South Africa, because they were in Namibia. They wanted to take over Angola. So when we were there, they were fighting us because our camps were in Angola. They bought the UNITA rebels for us to be killed by them in partnership with them, what we call the Buffalo Battalion, that was consisting of the racist regime. So that is my history. Then I came back.
There's more.
I came back from exile, and then I did not know that I was a king, but you know what? I'm the only son at home. My sisters, my siblings, I've got about four sisters. One passed away. She was a pharmacist. The other one did I come after. And then I was told that it is me that must take over. I said, no, me, I'm a communist. I told them, I'm a communist. I don't have any interest in this traditional stuff, because these are backwards things, because remember, I stayed in prison with communists, So I told them I can't be wearing skins. Yeah, I told them I can't wear skins again, So, can you imagine going back to wear skins and do it? And I said, nah, I'm not going to do that. But you know what? I was forced. And then the spirits, the ancestors took charge, because they saw that I had no interest. Everything that I had crashed. And then one day I had a dream, a very funny dream, where I saw people with white cloth, with leopard skins. They were praying for me. And this dream kept on coming back. I didn't ask my wife. I said, I have this problem of this dream. And I know the location, where these people are praying for me. So on Saturday, I asked my wife to drive me. She said, no ways. I'm not going to drive you. You have to drive yourself. So I went. I went there. You know why she did not want to drive me? Because all my cars were crashing, People would just crash me when I'm on the stop sign. And they will say they did not see the car. But I'm saying, why do you crash me? Because I'm not on your line, But, so I just lost everything. And then she borrowed me her car. And then I went there. Then there was another 2 old people that were sitting there. I explained my dream. They looked at me. They called one young chap, They said, talk to this man. They did not tell him why I was there. They just said, talk to this man. This man looked at me. He says to me, have you lost everything? I said, yes. He was a seer. This guy did not know, He said, have you lost everything? I said, yes, I lost everything. He says to me, can I look at your shoes? I said, why do you want to look at my shoes? He says, I want to see how finished they are. I said, no, they're not. He says, then me and you cannot talk now. I will talk when your shoes finish. I said, why? He says, you don't want to do what your ancestors want to do. I said, what is this? He said, they want you to become the restorer of their kingdom. I said, nah, I'm not interested in that. And then, but later I had to agree. They took me to a mountain where they did the rituals, and then later I was then installed into a position that I was not comfortable with. Yeah,
But the
but I find
ancestors were.
comfort
But the
now.
ancestors were.
Yeah,
So
but now I find comfort in it.
okay.
I think I'm
Okay.
enjoying. Yes, I think I'm enjoying it. And a little did I realize that their kingdom is very vast. You know, I was just looking at it from a I don't even have a word to describe it, because I thought it was just this chieftain saying, nah, I can't do this, I can't be oppressing people because of a communistic ideology. But later I discovered, no, it's something very critical, very important to do. That's what I'm doing now.
Okay.
That's what I'm doing, united. So I find out that this kingdom is not only the kingdom of the people in South Africa, but it is a Bantu kingdom. It is very broad, including the diaspora, including the continent, the Southern Africa, and what I'm happy about is I'm doing exactly what they wanted me to do, and I find comfort in it. Yes. So in all, that's me. And then I also serve in the National Executive Committee, subcommittee of the ANC in the international relations. I also worked as the head of administration in foreign affairs for quite a long time. And then I also worked as a commissioner in the Department of Arts and Culture. I think because of what I've been involved in the cultural sphere. But also I'm, aside, I used to play drums. I was a musician. I played with the legends of South Africa in exile. I played with Abdullah Ibrahim, what we call Dollar Brand. Yeah, I played with. I played with Yuma Sekela. I played with Jonas Bamba. I played with Letambuli and Kaifa Seminya. I met Quincy Jones.
Wow.
I remember when I met Quincy Jones insulted me. May his soul rest in peace.
Oh gosh. You probably, and we would love to hear that as a part of our next narrative, because it's wonderful that you had the opportunity, at a young age and moving into the strength of your adulthood, Your Majesty, to be able to be around, because these are the things that help couch, or I should say strengthen, the work that you do now in 2026. Right.
Yes.
Right.
That's true.
Quincy Jones was pretty hard on most people. He was pretty hard on most people. It was about the standards of excellence in music, and definitely would be hard to make sure that you are exceptional.
But listen to why he was insulting me.
Oh, okay.
Quincy Jones, we were on stage, with a band that was playing more deeply African music, So we were using the time signature that we call it 6/8, So it was like, okay, I was the leader of the band, I would become very radical on stage because I was the leader of the band. I would just tell the band, the intro. I'll just shout in the band in the stage. We're going to close, we're going to close with the 4/4 intro of the other song. The guys would say no. I said yes. Then I started rolling. Everybody has to do that. So guys will just musician will just say, hey, fuck you, man. Fuck, you can't do this to us. But Quincy Jones was watching this.
Oh, wow.
Quincy Jones was like on the table, at the table watching this. He even push his food, He says, gee, was.
Oh, gosh.
When we finished, Quincy Jones said, I want to talk to this motherfucker.
Oh, gosh.
I said, this guy is insulting me now.
Oh,
he says, he said to me, what the fuck are you thinking, man? I said, I don't understand. He says, I want you in LAU. You must stay with me. He says, oh, this is a brilliant, this is a brilliant motherfucker I need in my life.
Well, and
that's how he insulted.
Yeah, and I think that's like where we say that's how you get closer to the greatness, right? So thank you for sharing that, Your Majesty. I wasn't expecting that one, so you definitely got me today. You got me today.
He says, I love this. He says, I love this. He says, I love this guy. Hey, man, this is my man.
Wow.
Yeah, Queens.
Right. Well,
Yeah, I'll share a picture. I'll share a picture where I was. He actually helped me with my band. He was just helping me on my shoulders. I'll just share that picture with you. Yes, I'll just share the picture with you.
Thank you. No, because I think it's important to have
Yeah.
those types of conversations. So I want us to, because I know we could do this all day, and I could tell that
Oh yeah, no.
I would love for persons to also know how to be able, or at least share with me a link where people can either get some of your publications. It's easy to look up your name, and I know you have a lot of presence on digital media. People have recorded you in different places. I also would like to just take a minute, and I'm hoping that this will work within all of the other exotic work that I try to do on this background. But just give me like one. And I take a moment to just kind of share. I thought it would have come up a little better, but I like the way in which we have the opportunity to offer different platforms here on ASTSpeaks. So I'm taking a moment to undo or redo some other opportunities for how we can put things together and bring things out. So I'm hoping that persons can hear a little bit of some of the things that we try to bring to the table while we're doing this particular podcast. I think that it's important that people get a chance to hear a little bit more about what you have brought forward, and hopefully I hope that.
Thank you, Jessica. And I'm going to share something very important so that we all listen and understand. When I say,
I just needed for persons to just hear that segment. That was really important to me, because at the Pan-African activity hosted for African Liberation Day, following the summit, and this was hosted by the people of Uganda. It was a powerful opening. Your son, Crown Prince, really brought just the manner in which I could never repeat the manner in which he introduces you. So I just have to make sure that I highlight that part, because I think about it all the time, because there's a lot of ways in which we try to support the tradition of how there is a royal protocol for how persons are introduced, how we welcome them, how we engage with them, and then bringing it into contemporary times. So I'd like us to continue with your different, as soon as I get the pictures, I'm going to put those up as well. But I'd like to add, a couple of conversations so that our listeners can still continue to enjoy hearing, from, of, and about you. So please continue, Your Majesty, because I want you to get to that conversation. I mean, thank you for sharing about the music and giving us context on your experience as a young freedom fighter, and that you continued in that activism, to a significant portion of your life, and then accepted the ancestral call for your legacy, your royal legacy, as a king, of the Embo nation. I'd like for you to speak to, because I know some people are really kind of like, why am I speaking to someone from South Africa, considering all the things that are happening? No, and, I'm just saying, I have to clean. I live here, so I have to make sure when I get to work and get to the community, they're not watching me with long eye. So I just am asking for you to share, because part of this engagement, this discussion that we would like to continue having on a regular basis, is to give context of what like preceded, because some persons are looking at what's happening in South Africa now, and again, the violence part, the inhumanity part, really poor. No one is condoning any of that, but I would love for you to highlight the the historical frame, in a way that persons can at least better understand, that this is not like, it's definitely not all South Africans nationals are engaged in this, and that there's some other elements that are involved, please.
No, thank you very much. I've just shared with you a picture where Quincy Jones is holding me. I was very young there. I just shared that with you now.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, what is critical is that when we speak about what is happening in South Africa, we cannot speak about the current situation without us reflecting at the historical background of our continent. Remember, when we speak of borders in the continent, I think it's very important that we must understand the difference of African borders in terms of the African demarcations. In the ancient times, rivers were used as demarcations in terms of chieftaincy, kingship. Whoever that would be coming from another side would, when he or she crosses the river, he or she must then go to the nearest chieftaincy office or the kingship, or to the headman who is in charge, or to the prime minister, and introduce themselves to say, I come from a particular tribe, I'm here for 1, 2, 3. That is number one. Then there is what we call the European demarcation, the Berlin Conference. I think we remember the Berlin Conference, yes, where they decided to cut a cake, according to the Europeans, what they stole from us. Now, those borders are the ones that today, when we are to speak with this topic, these are the borders that are now affecting us today. Now, when we speak with about this European demarcation borders, now everybody that you see as Africans, we must also remember that we are interrelated and we used to intermarry each other. So when the Berlin Conference was introduced, many families were left outside certain demarcations in terms of the demarcation borders. A lot of people were. And also, what is critical that I want to raise today, it is the wars, the wars of conquer that were led in what we call South Africa, because South Africa was conceived in 1910. Now, the wars during the 18 something that were led by Shaka. Shaka, now the historical background of Shaka. Shaka has never been a king. I think this is very critical that we must talk about. Shaka has never been a king. Shaka, please, your listeners, your viewers, please do a due diligence study. Shaka was born out of wedlock. What do we mean out of wedlock? Shaka's mother, they made her to marry a chief who was not a king but a chief. His name is ChenziRa. But the unfortunate part is that when they married this young girl to him, this guy was coming from the initiation school, meaning he was not healed in front. So, but this girl, she was already pregnant by somebody else. The mother to Shaka. So this guy was like observing the stomach, the tummy that was growing. He was asking, what is this? They said, no, we will heal this. It is a sickness that it is called Ushaka. So don't worry you. But later a baby came. So the guy was not happy about marrying a girl that was impregnated by somebody. Now, according to the locals ended up knowing the true story of the origin of Shaka. So Shaka was always chastised by his peers to say, you are born out of wedlock, you don't have a father. We don't know who's your father. So Shaka grew up in that environment, and that environment made him to be very aggressive, made him to fight people, and then as he was growing up, some of them would defeat him. So the mother then took him to one king to be raised in that environment. That king's name was Dingiswayo. What is the meaning of Dingiswayo? It is the one that was sent into wilderness. So Dingiswayo is the one that raised him. And then whilst he was raising him, he said, I think there's a family that made me what I am. That was Dingiswayo. So he took him to our family. He actually brought him to our family to be raised by our family. So a person who raised Shaka, it was King Bungane II. I think you can find it in the history, yes. So we treated him as our son, in our family. But later, as he was growing up, we chased him away because he wanted to rape one of the girls in our homestead. But he was not bitter. He was not bitter of that. Shaka, if you look at him, he does not dress up like Zulus. I'll tell you why I'm giving this history, because it's very critical in the current epoch now. Okay. So Shaka was not dressing up like what they call Zulus. I used to dress up. I think you saw me in Uganda. I was dressing up something like a skirt, like we call it udili. So that is our tradition. And the tradition of the short spear, it is King Bungane II who introduced that with his warriors that were referred as Iziendani. So it was King Bungane who taught him the art of war, because our warriors were much stronger, and even in the continent they are being regarded as the most powerful fighters. They call them Iziendani. Iziendani are people that displayed what we call the dreadlocks, as you see Rastafarians today having dreadlocks. So in the ancient times, our warriors, you'd see them with the dreadlocks. Then you would know that this is the identity of a warrior in our ancient times. Yes. King Godongwane or Dingiswayo then took Shaka back, and then Shaka then started molding his armed forces. Now Shaka, his intention was to go and pay revenge to those guys that were maltreating him during the time when he was young, you see. And then two, Shaka wanted to deal with his father, his foster father, ChenziRa, so he went back. He went back after they killed King Dingiswayo. King Dingiswayo was killed by the Zwide nation or the Ndwandwe nation. So he came to our homestead. He said, Ndwandwe, he said King Dingiswayo was coming from your homestead. As he was coming, he was killed by the Ndwandwes. Yes. So we took it personally, honestly speaking.
Okay.
Yeah, we took it personally to say, if somebody came out of our homestead, then you kill him, meaning you are undermining us, So we gave Shaka the armed forces. We also gave him the medicine of war. We call it intelesi. So that intelesi, it is our secret. It is our secret. I also use it up to today. They actually show us at home. It's called intelesi. Now, so that intelesi is the one that the warriors use to wash, so that when they go to war, they must not be defeated. So we were the only people that had that. So that's how Shaka was able to defeat the Ndwandwes. Then after he defeated the Ndwandwes, then he went back to ChenziRa, the guy who rejected him as a father. He then said, I want the throne because I'm the firstborn here. And then the father then said, the throne does not belong to you. belonged to Bungane, your younger brother. Then Shaka went and killed his brother. And then he started organizing the nation today that is called Zulus. Why am I giving this background? Because now remember, the foundation of this nation, it is a foundation that used spear, that used blood to be consolidated as a nation. And then there was a guy who was the chief of staff of King of Shaka. Then Shaka placed himself as the king without being coronated. He became the king, and then he said anybody who's opposing him, he must die. So everybody started succumbing. Other people.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry.
Yes. No, I just wanted to ask a small question, because what tends to happen is that persons are operating through the lens of knowledge that was granted to them. So what you're sharing, and I say this to our viewers and listeners very carefully, please listen to what is being said through a lens of clarity and through a lens of let us do the research together. Like, don't see it as the hostility part, because yes, it was some very aggressive behaviors that have been described, but I like for persons to be able to share and understand like what this has to do with what is happening in South Africa as we speak.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Because the foundation that Shaka created his nation, it was through spear, it was through blood. So he also had another chief of staff by the name of Mzilikazi. So Mzilikazi agreed with Shaka to say, we're going to colonize people under one kingship, meaning my kingship as Shaka. So you go around, you Mzilikazi, you take their cattle, you force them to be under us. And then what is going to happen in those cattle? I, Shaka, I want the white cattle. You can take whatever color, I don't care. But when you bring to me all white cows, white cattle to me, then it's okay. Then we've settled the scores. But not everybody agreed to that. Other people left because they did not want to be under that tyranny. They left, they ended up in Tanzania. They left, they ended up in Zambia. They left, they ended up in Mozambique, in what we call Malawi today. That's why you find the kingship in those areas. They dress up like what we would refer as Zulus, you know. So these are the people who did not want to be under Shaka. So these are the Hlachwayos, the Jele or the Njere, and the Mpezeni, what we find in Zambia today. So all of them that decided to leave instead of to be under Shaka, because he imposed himself as a king. Now, when Shaka's mother died, Shaka made people to mourn for a year. He did not want people to go and work in the field. He wanted people. So one guy said to him, Shaka, people are dying because of hunger. He says, they must mourn my mother. Then he went on to say, when Shaka find you passing by during the morning period, you are laughing, then you are being killed, because you are laughing him because he lost his mother. So that is the history. Now, why I'm giving this history? Now I'm giving this background because it's critical to say this is what today is happening, because there was never a cleansing. But before I talk about cleansing, so there was a man who used to be responsible for taking care of the cattle of other people during that time when a kingdom, Shaka, was consolidating. Shaka was never king of the Zulus. The Zulu name was conceived after his death. I just want to clarify that one. It's very critical.
Right.
He was never king of the Zulus. So what happened was that during the time Shaka was reigning with force, there was a man by the name of Malandela, meaning the one who follows others. Okay, And then Malandela was the one who was responsible for taking care of other people's cattle. Now, he also sold marijuana for exchange for skins. Now, he used to go to Mtetwas and sell marijuana to them, and then they would pay him with skins, because at that time there was no monetary currency, meaning money. So they would exchange. So yes. So Malandela, this white guy, the arrival of the British, they saw this man who goes around the land with these cattle the whole day. Then they asked him, can we meet tomorrow so that we can talk about the demographics of this area? You know why? Because these are the guys that were interested in colonizing what we call KwaZulu today. Now, these are two different provinces. There's what we call KwaZulu, there's what we call Natal. Now, I'll tell you how they consolidated it. And then I'll come to the issue of today, so that everybody must understand this is not just an isolated incident, but it is historically. Now, out of that, the British then met with this guy. Now, in those ancient times, you remember in the 18-something, a pen, they used to use a feather with an ink. So this white man started writing, asking Malandela, who's the chief here? Who's the king? Who's the most powerful person here? So Malandela would give him the background, because they wanted to colonize the area. So Malandela was compensated for his information to be elevated into what we see the Zulu kingdom today. That is the father and the founding father of the Zulu nation today. That's why they use the kings in their regalia, what they put in the head, they put a feather, is to remember that guy who consolidated the Zulu kingdom. That's why their king was taken to England to go and sign an agreement to be under the British rule. His name is Cetshwayo. So Cetshwayo met with Queen Victoria. They signed an agreement. They made him the paramount chief of KwaZulu because they wanted to consolidate. Now the British then have a pact with the Zulus to go and colonize other areas, and then they will then portray the Zulus as the victors. So up to today, the Zulu kingdom is being funded by Britain. Now,
but I have a question, Your Majesty. So let me ask this question, right? Because that could take us into a very lengthy conversation, and I think this is very valuable, and that we will cover that in our next episode of these conversations. I would really like if you could go from that portion and go to where we can begin to speak to what transpired in regard to the current situation. Like I just would like to add this part. Like you were sharing with us the different kingdoms, the inaccuracies of the colonizer, the role of the British. You helped us to understand that persons that were South African ultimately migrated to other parts of what we know as Southern Africa. You know, you mentioned Malawi, Zimbabwe. I'm sure that includes Lesotho, Botswana, etc. And that but it's the same essence people, you know, Mbo, Bantu, etc. And that they spread out. So, and now we have people from these same spaces. I'm not going to just say nations, but I'm going to say from these same spaces, kingdoms, etc., that are having conflict, obviously because they do not have the history in the manner that you just shared, and maybe because of other influences of the colonizers. Because if what you're saying as you're speaking, it's making us know that we have to learn a lot more about what transpired before we're seeing this type of xenophobia, violence in South Africa of Africans. Let me be more specific. Ancestral ascended Black Africans, colored Africans against other ancestral Black colored Africans. Because I would like to be, because I know that now we have Africans that are European, but European or
Yes.
Caucasian, yeah? So I'm just speaking specifically of the acts of violence. You know, if you can share some of that before we get ready to close on this particular episode of our
Okay.
speaks.
So what the British did is that when they were consolidating themselves, now there was another portion. They maintained that power of the Zulu nation, but at the same time they created what we call the British confines. Under the Zulus, under the British confines, they then created what we call a governor who is in charge of Natal, who's in charge of KwaZulu. Then everybody must go and pay allegiance to that man. His name is Benjamin Pine. He was from England. So those that he did not like, those that fought against him, he made sure that they disappear, and then he elevated the Zulus up to today. Now the reason why I'm talking about this, remember that in the 70s, there was a man who was a member of the ANC Youth League. ANC Youth League. His name is Gaja Buthelezi. Now, Gaja Buthelezi, as the member of the league of the ANC, he grew up with Nelson Mandela. He grew up with Robert Sobukwe of the Pan-Africanist Congress. They went together to school at Fort with Robert Mugabe, all of them. So later, this is the guy who met with Oliver Tambo, who wanted to create an organization called Inkatha Yesizwe, meaning the tie or the bond of the nation. So he wanted validation from the ANC. The ANC agreed to that. Little did they realize that it is a man with a double agenda. So this is a man that was sent by the Afrakan regime to go and speak to Tambo. That's why up to today, Inkatha Freedom Party uses the same colors of the ANC, but they use red and white also. But this is the guy that created this. Then he went to England also to restore that dignity and the relationship of the British under the kingship of the Zulus. So whilst he was doing that, he became the regent, he became the caretaker of that nation that was called AmaZulu. So King Zwelithini, the one who just passed on, he was then sent to go and study in England in preparation for him to become a king. Whilst he was studying, Gaja Buthelezi became the one who's responsible for the kings. For the Zulu kingdom. Now, whilst he was doing that, he was consolidating a power that was going to, in future, be used to fight against any democratic movement. Now, people were not aware of that. Now, whilst he was doing that, then to validate his kingdom, he had to go to Swaziland to go and get a daughter of King Sobhuza to marry with Zwelithini, who became the king later. Now, what is interesting now in the current situation? In the current situation, whilst Buthelezi was organizing himself, there is a young man whom his father surrendered him to Gaja Buthelezi to become a warlord. And that guy, it is the same guy who's leading those marches in South Africa today, is the one who dressed up in the Zulu regalia. His name is Phakela Umthakathi. What is the meaning of Phakela Umthakathi? It simply means in English to dish for the witch, meaning a person who's a witch, who's practicing witchcraft. That is his name. Phakela Umthakathi, meaning dish food for the witch. So Phakela Umthakathi's background was that he was given to Gaja Buthelezi as a young small boy to be raised by Gaja Buthelezi. So he became a member of that political organization. He became also a warlord in the 80s, a young warlord who was fighting, like you remember, on the black on black violence in the 80s and in the 90s in South Africa. That's the same guy. Now, this is the same guy who's leading these marches today. Now, the question is, who is funding him? Now, he uses the name of the IFP. He says, I am a member of the IFP and I'm doing this thing for the IFP, meaning he has taken over from the late Chief Kajabu Telis. I just wanted to give that background.
Well, I would like to thank you for sharing that background, Your Majesty, King Bungane III of the Embo Kingdom, because that's helping persons. And I'm grateful that persons were very patient. You know, we got a chance to learn a bit about your early life. Definitely got to catch on to the feisty portion of your experience within being on the front line of the anti-apartheid movement, you know, surviving and thriving even after being a young prisoner in Robben Island, accepting your royal ancestral legacy and going through the initiation rituals to maintain and uphold that quite well. I'm very honored to just be able to have this time with you. I think that it's also important, Bayete, to highlight that you've also shared with us a significant conversation around the importance of knowing the history of the intentional colonial divisiveness in terms of land borders, in terms of ethnic nations and kingdoms that still impacts life in South Africa in 2026. I'm very grateful that you were able to share, and I encourage people go back and listen to the names, because some of that I'm sitting here typing myself to be able to have like where we can go and find reading references and sources to really understand who were these persons, how did they engage, and who was actually being tricked, bamboozled, as Malcolm X would say, into accepting British colonialism and then actually engaging and supporting that behind money, usually greed, corruption, etc. I think it's also the other part that, in terms of just trying to make sure for persons that may have just joined us now and can go back and look at the broadcast, because we'll leave it up on YouTube as well as Facebook later on. I think it's important that persons are aware that this is an ongoing conversation, and that we've been encouraging people, if you're going to ask a question, please do. You're going to share a comment, please do it principally. I need to say that one more time. Please share comments and questions that let us build. We're not here to be antagonistic. We're not here to fight each other. We're here to bring truth, justice, order, reciprocity, balance, divine righteousness, and harmony by sharing the different perspectives around what is happening. Tonight, we're speaking of South Africa. We are definitely sending prayers with action so that the violence can subside, be crushed, stop, because we do not need this type of intentional, I'll refer to it again as a maangamizi. This is like another layer of not only mental enslavement, but outright genocide. It could lead to that. And it needs to be quelled and stopped. And I'm hoping that the different, with what you've shared with us and giving us some of the history, that what persons can learn from this, if they have questions, they may have a different perspective. But ultimately, Your Majesty, what would you like, as we get ready to close out today's broadcast, what would you like people to essentially know about what's happening in South Africa now? And how do we move forward?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, my queen. In South Africa, not everybody supports what is happening. As I said, it is two things that we must consider. It is a consolidation of the IFP power under the rule of the Zulus, what we call the Nguni supremacy, and then number two, these colonial borders, because the very same guys that I'm talking about, Pagelum Tagati, that are marching, they are basing themselves under the colonial borders. They are saying the very same people that were pushed away with Shaka, that they did not want to be under Shaka, the Malawians, the Mozambicans, the list goes on, are the very same ones who are coming back to South Africa today, and they are being regarded as foreign nations. For example, Yes, for example, the people who left with the chief of staff of King Shaka, what we refer as the Mandebeles of Zimbabwe. These are people who came, who originally come from the side of Shaka. Today, they are being chased away also. Two, the Malawians are the ones that were led by Zwangendaba, who did not want to be under Shaka. They ended up in Malawi. They ended up in Tanzania. Some of them ended up in Zambia like that. These are the people that are coming back today. But there is a group of people who are saying you are not qualified to be in South Africa because you guys are coming from Malawi, you are not South African. So we should learn from the historical background of this thing to say, how do we define an illegal immigrant? How do we define an undocumented migrants? So maybe the next topic should be about what is the definition of an illegal migrant in terms of our color, in terms of our historical background, because they are not doing this to white people. They are only doing it to the very same black people, also to the Bangladeshis. They also doing it to the Pakistanis, to the Somalis, all those people. So maybe another topic again, it's about one, as I said earlier on, how do we define illegal migrants or undocumented migrants? And number two, we should also talk another topic. It's about the businesses that are booming in the local townships of black people, of what we call African people, that are being dominated by the Bangladeshis, that are being dominated by the Somalis and the Ethiopians. So I think these are the things that makes people to stand up based on those things. Maybe let's have a topic on that and discuss broadly about those two things. Then you will understand why other people end up forming part of the very same people that are referred as warriors, that are led by Pagela Umtagati, the guy who's dishing food for the witches. Yes, because he uses he uses that phrase to say, why do you allow these people to own businesses in your townships? Meaning, what are you going to gain out of this thing? Because these are the people who are making money or not investing in this country. So why do you allow them? Chase them out. So and then number two, you guys are unemployed here. All your employment is taken by these foreign natives who are coming from Malawi and what in Zimbabwe. So chase them out. So it is his theme, using it to chase people out of South Africa.
Oh, yes. Well, thank you for just sharing that part. I'm very grateful because I wanted to make sure that I got it, that one of the future topics is what is the definition of an illegal immigrant and undocumented migrants in terms of our historical background in South Africa. And then the other portion seemed like it went more to discussing broadly the issues on the issues in South Africa that are creating this economic in South Africa that are creating economic instability. Is that what you meant? Is that part of what you were saying?
Yes,
Okay.
that's exactly what I'm saying.
Because see, I like putting it down because that way I can say, per His Royal Majesty King Bungane III, right? Because that way people won't come after me, right? Because I still am learning. I'm still learning, but I'm very grateful. We have really we went a little over time, but this is perfect because again, Bayete Nagas, Your Royal Majesty King Bungane III of the Embo Kingdom, we're very grateful that you took some time. I'm looking forward to the next broadcast because you have offered us the opportunity to continue to share the history, the traditions, and the ancestral veneration of the legacy that you have been honored to represent and just appointed, not just appointed on the earth plane, but from an ancestral heavenly plane, or I like to refer to it as eternal paradise. Me and heaven have a funny phrase, but I think I think that it's important If there's any closing words that you'd like to share with our viewers and listeners, please.
But no, what I would love to say, thanks for giving me this opportunity for us to talk about what is happening in South Africa. And please don't take it from the side that it is King Bungane from Embo. Let's take it as a discussion. Let's have a robust debate or discussion so that we find a solution. Not everybody supports what is happening in South Africa. Now, a lot of people tend to then decide to say all South Africans, especially Africans, don't want other Africans in their country. It's not true. Not all of us agree to that. And then we must also find out who is funding these people. Because when you look at the Inkatha Freedom Party in the 80s and in the 70s, they were funded by the Afrikaner racist regime and also by the Israelites. Israelites meaning the current government of Israel. Up to today, there are political parties that are funded by the very same people. So we must look at it not from the perspective of it's King Bungane, no, he's against the Zulus. No, I'm not against the Zulus. We actually made that kingdom. Shaka was raised by us, but we must look at the objective reality so that when we discuss. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Royal Majesty. And so with that, we have actually come to the next portion of our broadcast. We're really grateful to be able to have you stay tuned with us. We're looking forward to being able to highlight some different components. I encourage persons, if you'd like more information, or if you would like any of the links to some of the activities that we have been referencing in today's broadcast, send an email to ASTSpeaks@gmail.com. Remember that our focus here is for us to have these discussions. And as His Royal Majesty King Bungane III of the Embo Kingdom has shared, to have robust conversations, robust discussions. No one is here pushing any hatred. No one is here to push any antagonisms. Our focus is to do exactly that. Build together and building a new legacy. Yes? That a legacy that allows us to elevate and be on the space where we honor our ancestors, the venerated ancestral spaces, that we honor the Creator in the works that we do. So remember that culture heals humanity, land is our foundation, and spiritual harmony unifies us. And each and every one of us represents a house of life, where you hear me speak of the Perang, yes? But more importantly, remember that the honor and the glory exists for us to harmonize and restore our shared humanity to the best of our ability. So again, we're very grateful to be able to have His Royal Majesty King Bungane III of the Embo Kingdom join us here on ASTSpeaks. We're going to be doing this again, so just stay tuned. Stay tuned. For those that are aware, you can look for us on the YouTube page. You can also look for us on Facebook. And again, we've already given our email, ASTSpeaks, ASTSpeaks, @gmail.com. And this has been your host, Queen Mother, Dr. ChenziRa. This has been a wonderful opportunity. Hotep.
Yeah. The Crew Podcast Network presents and speaks with Queen Mother Dr. Chen. Live every first and third Thursday at 8 p.m. EST. Culture, healing, heritage, spirituality, Caribbean roots, and African diaspora rising. From St. Croix to the world so wide. Queen Mother Dr. Chen brings truth with pride. Culture in the rhythm, wisdom in the sound. Healing for the people, roots in sacred ground. She keeps the story, she keeps it alive. African diaspora, we rise and thrive. Caribbean voices, bold and free. Honoring ancestors, shaping destiny. As we speak, so let the people know. Culture and healing in a reggae flow. As we speak, heritage strong. Spiritual wisdom all night long. Every first and third Thursday, tune in live. 8 p.m. EST, come feel the vibe. As we speak, we rise, we seek. Queen Mother Dr. Chen, I speak. This kickstanding, preserving the flame. Teaching our people to honor the name. Perang move. moving with chats for life. Culture, healing, art, spirit, and life. Technology, community, wisdom too. Building up the people in all we do. From island roots to global lands, we remember, rise and stand. Pan African vision, reparations call. Justice and healing for one and all. Audible, these are my heart, hurry up too. Amazon Music bringing vibes to you. As this speaks, let the people know. Culture and healing in a reggae flow. As this speaks, heritage strong. Spiritual wisdom all night long. Strong. Every first and third Thursday, tune in live. 8 p.m. PST, come feel the vibe. As this speaks, we rise, we sing, we know.